Okay, we're going to do a problem from the Practice and Skills workbook. It's page 103, problem number 13. So, 4 people have used different methods to find the height of a wall. The results are shown in the table. Order their measurements from greatest to least and use pi is about 3.14. And they've given us the numbers, square root of 12 minus 1 is one of our numbers. 5 over 2 is another. 2.25 is another, and then 1 plus pi over 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go in order in which of the ones I think are the easiest. Okay, 2.25, we don't have to change anything, so I'm just going to go ahead, I'm just going to write that again underneath in red. 5 over 2, let's go ahead, let's divide those two. Let's see what happens when you divide those two. So, set it up. Looks like it's going to go in there twice. And 2 goes into 10. It's going to go in there 5 times. So we'll go ahead and we'll subtract that. So this number right over here is going to get us 2.5. And I think the next easiest is probably this one. Okay, over here you've got pi over 2. So I'm going to use that, 3.14. I'm going to divide it by 2. So let's do that over here. 3.14 divided by 2. So it's going to go there once. 2 goes into 11 5 times. Okay, that'll get us a 10. And then we get a 1, break down the 4. So it's going to go in 7 times. Okay, so we end up with 1.57, but remember that you have a 1 in front of it and it's being added. So we need to add 1. So if we do that, we're going to get 2.57. Let's write down 2.57. Okay, so the one we're probably going to have to do a little bit of work on is going to be the one that has the square root. So we have square root of 12. So let's think about square root of 12. If we use perfect squares, we know something about square root of 12. It has to be between 2 numbers, and the 2 numbers that's going to be between, looks like it's going to be a 3 and a 4. 3 and a 4, yeah, it squeezes in between that. If you're not sure where that comes from, if I go 2 squared, I get 4. If I go 3 squared, I get 9. 4 squared, I get 16, and I know that that 12 is somewhere between the 9 and the 16, so that's where the 3 and the 4 come from. Okay, so if I set it up like we've done before, we could go ahead and say, okay, well, it's between the 3 and the 4, and here they're saying let's subtract 1. Well, let's see what happens when we do that. If we take 3 and 4 and we subtract the 1, we're going to get between 2 and 4 minus 1 is 3. So our answer here has to be between 2 and 3. Well, guess what? It doesn't help us because all of these answers are between 2 and 3. Okay. All that means is we just have to do a little bit more work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to what we wrote down. We have 3 square root of 12, and we have 4. So we have to try some numbers. So I'm going to try 2.5. That's a number between 3 and 4. Now let's see what happens when we try 3.5. So we're going to take 3.5. We're going to square that. So you got to multiply 3.5 times 3.5. So I'm just going to do that over here. 3 times 5, and then add the 2. That's what's 15, 17. All right. Get a 5 here, put a 1 right here, so that's 15, carry the 1. Alright, so it looks like we're going to get 11, actually we're not going to get 11, 2, so it looks like we're going to get 1225. Don't forget that you do have a decimal in here, so I'm going to bring that back in right now. So I'm getting 12.25. So if that gives me 12.25, I want you to think to yourself, where does that show up with the 12? If I went ahead and made kind of like a number line, and this is 12.25, is the 12 going to be to the left, or is it going to be to the right of 12.25? Well, it is going to be to the left of 12.25. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try 12.25. I'm going to try a number to the left of it to see if we can get something a little bit closer. Let's try 3.4. Take 3.4, we're going to square that, find some room to do that. So I'll just go 34, 34. So is that 12? That's 13. There's 12. Okay, we get a 6, a 5, a 1, and a 1. Bring back our decimals. Don't forget about those guys. And we get 11.56. Okay, so that's actually good news because we had 3.4, and then the one right next to it turned out to be 11.56. Okay, so what does that tell us? Try to clear it up a little bit. Is our number 12 is going to be between these two right here. It's going to be between the 11.56 and the 12.25. Okay, so we just made it into a little bit smaller interval. So I'm going to write that down. So 3.4 is going to be less than the square root of 12, which is less than 3.5. And I think that'll probably help us get to this one. So what I'm going to do now, this is good for the square root of 12. However, on this problem, what we have to do is we have to subtract 1. So I'm going to do that. Let's show that, indicate that in green right here. So if I take away 1, so 3.4 take away 1, I get 2.4 is less than. Now in the middle, I'm going to write that square root of 12 like we had before, but this middle is actually representing if you subtract 1. And then I'm going to take away 1 over here, I get 2.5. Okay, so our answer, whatever answer it is, has to be between 2.4 and 2.5. Okay, so I'm going to write that part down right back where we started. So we'll go ahead and go over here. 2.4 and 2.5. Now remember, folks, we don't go ahead and include these two endpoints. Okay, so all we have to do is put it in order from greatest to least. So let's take a look at it. We're looking for the biggest number, which looks like 2.57. So I'm going to write that one first. 2.57. Okay, so our next number that we're going to write down looks like it's going to be 2.5. I can't write this one down because remember that this little section is between 2.5 and 2.4. So 2.5 is right here. Looks like our next one's going to be between 2.4 and 2.5. And then our last one is 2.25. Okay, the very last thing you need to do to finish up the problem is to switch it back to the original numbers that we had. So 2.57 is actually going to be 1 plus pi over 2. 2.5 is that one right over here. 2.5 is 5 over 2. 2.4 through 2.5, remember that's this first one, so that's going to be square root of 12 minus 1. And then the very last one was the one they gave us, which was just the 2.5. Okay, that one should be the smallest one. So this right here in green is going to be your answer to